The brutal truth about comfort warriors. Most people spend their entire lives chasing comfort. A more comfortable home, a more comfortable job, a more comfortable routine, a more comfortable existence. And yet, something strange keeps happening. The more comfortable society becomes, the more restless people seem to feel. The more convenience we create, the less fulfilled we become. The more we avoid difficulty, the weaker we feel when difficulty inevitably arrives. This is the paradox nobody talks about. Comfort promises peace, but often delivers stagnation. Comfort promises safety, but often creates fragility. Comfort promises happiness, but frequently leaves people feeling empty. Right now, while you're watching this video, millions of people are trapped inside invisible prisons. Not prisons built from steel, not prisons built from walls, prisons built from habits, from convenience, from routines that ask nothing of them. And that is precisely why they remain trapped. Because the most dangerous prison is the one that feels comfortable. The Stoics understood something that modern society has largely forgotten. Human beings were not designed for constant comfort. They were designed for growth, for challenge, for adaptation, for overcoming resistance. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire while facing war, plague, betrayal, and uncertainty. Yet he repeatedly reminded himself not to seek an easier life, but to become stronger. Seneca voluntarily practiced discomfort, despite being wealthy. Epictetus taught that adversity was not an obstacle to the path, it was the path. And today, modern psychology is arriving at a similar conclusion. Research consistently shows that growth occurs at the edge of discomfort, not in the comfort zone, not in certainty, not in ease, but in challenge, in effort, in voluntary struggle. The truth is that comfort is not always the reward. Sometimes it is the trap. A trap that slowly steals your ambition, your courage, your discipline, your potential. Not all at once, but little by little, day after day, year after year. Until one morning you wake up and realize you've spent years avoiding discomfort, while also avoiding growth. This video is not about rejecting comfort completely. It is about understanding its cost, because every choice has a price. The question is whether you are paying a price you can see, or a price that remains hidden until it is too late. Today we will uncover one of the most overlooked dangers of modern life. The silent force that keeps people average, the invisible chain that prevents transformation, the comfort that feels good, while quietly stealing the life you could have lived. And before we begin, ask yourself one question. What if the thing protecting you is the very thing holding you back? The addiction. Nobody notices. Most addictions do not look dangerous. They do not arrive with warning signs. They do not announce themselves. They quietly become part of everyday life, and that is what makes them so powerful. When people hear the word addiction, they think about substances, alcohol, drugs, nicotine. But some of the strongest addictions require no chemicals at all. They live inside routines, inside habits, inside comfort. Comfort is one of the few addictions that society rewards. Nobody criticizes you for choosing the easier path. Nobody warns you when convenience becomes dependence. Nobody tells you that comfort can slowly become a cage, because from the outside, everything looks normal. You are safe. You are comfortable. You are avoiding risk. And yet something inside you begins to shrink, not physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Every time you avoid a difficult conversation, every time you postpone a challenge, every time you choose temporary relief over long-term growth, your comfort zone expands, and your world becomes smaller. This is how potential disappears. Not through dramatic failures, not through catastrophic mistakes, but through gradual surrender. The surrender of ambition, the surrender of discipline, the surrender of courage. The ancient Stoics observed something that modern neuroscience now confirms. The human brain is designed to conserve energy. It naturally seeks efficiency, safety, predictability. From an evolutionary perspective, this made perfect sense. thousands of years ago. Unnecessary risks could mean death, but the modern world is different. Today, the greatest dangers are often invisible. The danger is not starvation, it is stagnation. The danger is not physical hardship, it is psychological comfort. The danger is not survival. It is wasting your potential. Research in behavioral psychology has repeatedly shown that the brain quickly adapts to comfort. What once felt rewarding soon becomes normal. And once it becomes normal, you need more of it, more convenience, more entertainment, more distraction, more ease. The cycle never ends, because comfort behaves like a drug. The reward fades, the dependence grows, and without realizing it, people become addicted to avoiding discomfort. They avoid rejection, they avoid failure, they avoid criticism. They avoid uncertainty, but they also avoid growth. Because growth and discomfort have always traveled together. Every meaningful achievement requires temporary discomfort. Every skill demands struggle. Every transformation requires resistance. There is no exception. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He never asked how to avoid difficulty. He asked how to become worthy of it. And that is the question most people never ask. Instead, they spend years searching for easier roads, easier jobs, easier relationships, easier lives, without realizing that an easy life often produces a difficult future, while difficult choices often create an easier future. The comfort trap is dangerous because it feels good. There is no alarm, no warning, no obvious sign that anything is wrong. Until years pass, and you realize that your greatest limitation was never a lack of opportunity. It was your attachment to comfort, the desire to feel safe, the desire to avoid struggle, the desire to remain exactly where you are. And that is the addiction nobody notices. The addiction that steals dreams before they ever become reality. The addiction that convinces people they are resting, when in truth, they are slowly surrendering their future. But comfort itself is not the real enemy. The real enemy lies deeper, inside the brain itself, and understanding that may be the key to breaking free. Why the brain loves comfort. Your brain has one primary mission: survival, not happiness, not fulfillment, not greatness, survival. For hundreds of thousands of years, human beings lived in a world filled with uncertainty. Food was not guaranteed, shelter was not guaranteed, safety was not guaranteed. Every day presented risks, every decision carried consequences, and because of that, the human brain evolved to conserve energy whenever possible. It learned to avoid unnecessary effort, to seek familiarity, to prefer certainty over uncertainty, to choose comfort whenever it could. At the time, this was a brilliant strategy. The individuals who wasted less energy were often the ones who survived. But evolution solved yesterday's problems, not today's, because the world changed faster than the brain did. Today, most people no longer struggle to survive. They struggle to find meaning. They struggle to build discipline. They struggle to achieve their potential. And yet the brain continues operating with ancient programming, always searching for the easiest path. The quickest reward, the smallest effort. This is where the problem begins. Modern life offers an endless supply of comfort, unlimited entertainment, instant food, instant communication, instant pleasure, instant distraction, for the first time in human history. People can spend entire days avoiding discomfort without ever realizing it, and the brain loves it. Every notification, every scroll, every shortcut, every moment of convenience triggers small releases of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with motivation and reward. But there is a hidden consequence. The more frequently the brain receives easy rewards, the less willing it becomes to pursue difficult rewards. Why spend months learning a skill when instant entertainment is available? Why endure temporary discomfort? When comfort is only one click away, why face uncertainty when distraction is easier? Over time, the brain becomes conditioned, not for growth, but for comfort, not for resilience, but for convenience. And slowly, the ability to tolerate discomfort begins to weaken. This is why many people feel overwhelmed by challenges that previous generations would have considered normal. Not because they are weak, but because they have trained themselves to avoid resistance. And what we avoid, we become less capable of handling. The Stoics understood this long before neuroscience existed. They knew that comfort weakens when it becomes a dependency. That ease becomes dangerous when it becomes a necessity. That strength requires resistance. Just as muscles grow through stress, character grows through challenge. Seneca deliberately exposed himself to discomfort, not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he understood something profound. If you only feel secure when conditions are perfect, you are not truly secure. You are dependent, and dependency creates fear. Fear of losing comfort, fear of losing certainty, fear of losing control. This is why so many people remain trapped, not by circumstances, but by their own minds. Their brain constantly whispers, choose the easy option, stay where it's safe, avoid the risk, avoid the effort, avoid the struggle. And each time they listen, the comfort zone becomes smaller, while the fear of discomfort becomes larger. Until eventually, the very things that create growth begin to feel impossible. But there is good news. The brain can be retrained. The patterns can be broken. The comfort addiction can be reversed, because the same mind that learned to seek comfort can learn to embrace challenge. And that is where true transformation begins. But first, you must understand the price that comfort demands, a price most people never realize they are paying. The cost of an easy life comfort never asks for payment up front. It waits, quietly, patiently, and then one day, it collects. Not all at once, but in small, invisible installments. A little ambition here, a little discipline there, a little courage, a little resilience. Until years pass, and you realize the bill was far larger than you ever imagined. The first cost is ambition. Comfort convinces you that where you are is good enough. It whispers that dreaming bigger is unnecessary, that pushing further is risky, that staying small is safer. And slowly, your goals begin to shrink. Not because you lost your ability, but because you lost your hunger. The hunger to grow, the hunger to improve, the hunger to become more than you are today. Most people do not fail because they lack talent. They fail because comfort slowly convinces them to stop trying. The second cost is discipline. Discipline is born when you act despite discomfort, when you continue even when motivation disappears. When you choose effort over ease. But comfort teaches the opposite lesson. It teaches you to wait until you feel ready, to wait until you feel motivated, to wait until conditions are perfect, and those conditions rarely arrive. Over time, the muscle of discipline weakens, not because you are incapable, but because it is no longer being used. Just like a body that becomes weaker without exercise, a mind becomes weaker without challenge. The third cost is resilience. Every difficulty you avoid today becomes a difficulty that controls you tomorrow. Every challenge you refuse to face gains power over your future. This is one of the greatest ironies of life. The discomfort we avoid often grows larger, while the discomfort we confront often becomes smaller. The Stoics understood that resilience cannot be purchased. It must be earned, through resistance, through adversity, through voluntary hardship. Not because suffering is valuable by itself, but because strength is forged through struggle. The fourth cost is time, perhaps the most expensive cost of all. Comfort steals time quietly. Hours disappear into distractions. Days disappear into routines. Years disappear into autopilot. And one day, you look back and realize that your most valuable resource was exchanged for temporary relief. The tragedy is not that time passes. Time always passes. The tragedy is allowing comfort to decide how it passes. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that every day was a piece of life itself, not preparation for life, not rehearsal for life. Life. And once a day is gone, It never returns. The fifth cost is identity. If you remain in comfort long enough, you begin forgetting who you were meant to become. You lose contact with your deeper values, your purpose, your potential. You become a stranger to yourself, not because you chose the wrong path, but because you stopped walking altogether. The most dangerous thing about comfort is not that it keeps you where you are. It is that eventually, it convinces you that where you are is where you belong. And that is how dreams disappear. Not through failure, but through surrender. Not through defeat, but through comfort. The final cost is freedom, because the more attached you become to comfort, the more afraid you become of losing it. And fear creates dependency. You become dependent on conditions, dependent on certainty, dependent on convenience, dependent on ease. But a life built on conditions is not freedom. It is captivity disguised as comfort. The Stoics sought freedom above all else. Not freedom from hardship, but freedom from dependence, freedom from fear, freedom from needing life to be easy before they could be at peace. And perhaps that is the lesson modern people need most. Comfort promises freedom, but often delivers the opposite, because every moment spent avoiding discomfort is a moment spent avoiding the person you could become. The brutal truth is this: the greatest opportunities in your life often exist on the other side of discomfort. And the longer you remain comfortable, the more expensive that comfort becomes. But if comfort is costing you so much, what did the Stoics do differently? How did they build strength in a world filled with hardship? The answer may change the way you live forever. What the Stoics practiced instead. If comfort was the trap, what was the alternative? Did the Stoics spend their lives seeking suffering? Did they believe pain was the goal? Did they reject every pleasure and convenience? No. That is one of the greatest misunderstandings about Stoicism. The Stoics did not worship hardship. They trained for freedom. And they understood a truth that most people never discover. The purpose of discomfort is not suffering. The purpose of discomfort is preparation. Preparation for the inevitable challenges of life. Because life will test you, not if, when. The question is whether you will be ready. This is why the Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort, not because they were forced to, because they chose to. Seneca would occasionally sleep on the floor, wear simple clothing, eat inexpensive food, and then ask himself a powerful question: is this what I feared? He was teaching his mind a lesson. That happiness was not dependent on luxury. That peace was not dependent on comfort. That strength came from knowing he could endure more than he imagined. Every act of voluntary discomfort carried the same message. You are stronger than your fears. You are stronger than your preferences. You are stronger than your comfort zone. Modern psychology now supports this principle. Studies on resilience consistently show that controlled exposure to challenges builds confidence, not because challenges become easier, but because you become stronger. Every time you voluntarily do something difficult, you send a signal to your brain. You survive, you adapt, you grow, and slowly, your relationship with discomfort changes. What once felt threatening begins to feel normal. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once created fear begins creating confidence. Marcus Aurelius practiced this internally. He reminded himself every morning that difficulties would come. Not as pessimism, but as preparation. He knew that reality would never obey his wishes. People would disappoint him. Plans would fail. Unexpected problems would appear. And because he expected resistance, he was not shocked when resistance arrived. Most people suffer twice. First from the event, then from their resistance to the event. The Stoics removed the second layer of suffering. They accepted difficulty before it appeared, and in doing so, they reduced its power. Another practice was negative visualization, a powerful mental exercise. Instead of constantly imagining best-case scenarios, they occasionally imagined losing what they valued: their health, their possessions, their status, their comfort. not to create anxiety, but to create gratitude. Because when you remember that nothing is guaranteed, you stop taking everything for granted. You appreciate what you have. You become less entitled, less fearful, less dependent, and far more resilient. The Stoics also practiced self-discipline daily, not occasionally, not when they felt motivated, every day, because they understood something most people ignore. Discipline is not built during extraordinary moments. It is built during ordinary ones. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you choose effort over excuses, every time you act despite discomfort, you strengthen your character, and character becomes destiny. This is what separated the Stoics from the crowd. They did not wait for life to force growth upon them. They pursued growth voluntarily. While others sought comfort, they sought strength. While others avoided resistance, they embraced it. While others asked life to become easier, they worked to become stronger, and because of that, they developed something far more valuable than comfort. They developed confidence. Not confidence that life would be easy, confidence that they could handle whatever life became. That is real strength. That is real freedom. And once you develop it, something remarkable happens. You stop fearing challenges. You stop running from discomfort. You stop living defensively. You begin moving toward life instead of hiding from it. And that is when transformation truly begins. Because there is one final step, one final shift that separates ordinary people from extraordinary ones. The moment when discomfort stops being something you tolerate and becomes something you actively seek. Becoming dangerous again. There was a time when survival demanded strength, a time when human beings could not afford weakness, a time when courage was not optional. It was necessary. Every generation before us faced challenges that demanded resilience. They endured uncertainty, scarcity, loss, failure, hardship, and through those struggles, they developed something modern comfort often erodes: inner strength. Today, the greatest threat is no longer physical survival. It is psychological comfort, a comfort so pervasive that many people have forgotten what they are capable of. They underestimate themselves. They doubt themselves. They fear challenges they could overcome, not because they are weak, but because they have spent too long avoiding the very experiences that create strength. This is why you must become dangerous again, not dangerous to others, dangerous to fear, dangerous to excuses, dangerous to comfort, dangerous to every limitation that has kept you small. The Stoics believe that every human being possesses untapped potential, a strength hidden beneath layers of convenience, a courage buried beneath years of avoidance, a resilience waiting to be awakened. But that strength never appears by accident. It emerges through challenge, through responsibility, through deliberate discomfort. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that a human being becomes stronger by doing the work they were born to do, not by hiding from it, not by postponing it, not by wishing for easier circumstances, but by facing reality directly. This is where transformation begins, the moment you stop asking, "How can I make life easier?" and start asking, "How can I become stronger?" That single shift changes everything. Because strength changes your relationship with adversity. Problems no longer feel like threats. They become opportunities. Obstacles no longer feel unfair. They become training. Discomfort no longer feels like punishment. It becomes preparation. This is the mindset that built great leaders, great thinkers, great creators, great warriors. They did not become extraordinary because life was easy. They became extraordinary because they stopped running from difficulty. And you can do the same. Start small, take the difficult conversation. Wake up when you said you would. Finish what you started. Keep promises to yourself. Choose discipline when comfort calls your name, not once. Repeatedly, because every small act of courage rewires the mind. Every challenge faced builds confidence. Every step into discomfort expands your world. And eventually, you become someone different. someone who no longer needs perfect conditions to act, someone who no longer depends on motivation, someone who no longer fears uncertainty. You become resilient, capable, free. That is what it means to become dangerous again. Not aggressive, not ruthless, but powerful. Powerful because you know you can endure. Powerful because you trust yourself. Powerful because comfort no longer controls your decisions. And when that happens, life changes. Not because the world becomes easier, but because you become stronger than the obstacles in front of you. The comfort zone shrinks, your confidence grows, and the future that once seemed impossible begins to feel within reach. Because the truth is this: everything you want is on the other side of comfort. The growth, the confidence, the discipline, the purpose, the life you are meant to live. And all of it becomes available the moment you stop choosing comfort over potential. The moment you stop hiding, the moment you step forward, the moment you decide that becoming stronger matters more than staying comfortable. That is the moment your life begins to change. Forever. Comfort is the real enemy. Most people spend their lives searching for comfort, more convenience, more certainty, more ease, believing that one day, if they can remove enough difficulty, they will finally find peace. But the Stoics discovered something different. Peace is not found through the absence of struggle. Peace is found through the ability to face struggle without fear, because the problem was never discomfort. The problem was dependence on comfort. The problem was believing that life must be easy before you can be happy. That conditions must be perfect before you can act. That certainty must exist before you can move forward. And that belief silently steals entire decades, not through tragedy, but through hesitation, through avoidance, through endless waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect version of yourself, a version that never arrives. Because growth was never meant to happen inside comfort. Growth happens in uncertainty, in resistance, in challenge, in the moments when everything inside you says, turn back, and you keep moving anyway. The Stoics understood that every human life is temporary, every possession, every achievement, every relationship, every breath, temporary. Which means the greatest mistake is not failure. The greatest mistake is refusing to live because you are afraid of discomfort. Marcus Aurelius wrote his reflections knowing that death could come at any moment, not as a source of fear, but as a reminder that time is limited, that excuses are endless, and that one day, the opportunity to become who you were meant to be will disappear forever. The question is not whether life will be difficult. It will. The question is whether difficulty will shape you or break you, whether comfort will control you, or whether you will control yourself. Because every day presents a choice: comfort or growth, convenience or strength, avoidance or courage. Most people make that choice unconsciously. The Stoics made it deliberately, and that is why their wisdom still survives thousands of years later. Not because they discovered secrets, but because they discovered truths. Truths about fear, truths about discipline, truths about human nature, truths that remain exactly the same today. So before you leave this video, ask yourself one final question. What has comfort cost you? How many opportunities? How many dreams? How many years? And more importantly, what could happen if you stopped letting comfort make your decisions? What could happen if you embraced challenge? If you welcomed discomfort? If you trusted your ability to endure? Perhaps the life you are searching for has been waiting there all along, on the other side of comfort, on the other side of fear, on the other side of every excuse you have ever told yourself. The path is still there. The opportunity is still there. The choice is still yours, and it begins with a simple decision. Stop choosing comfort. Start choosing strength, because comfort feels safe, but strength creates freedom, and freedom is worth everything. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments, I choose strength over comfort, and remember, The comfort zone may feel safe, but nothing grows there.